Hi guys, in this video I am sharing the books that I'm using with my 3rd and 5th graders this year. Now in the video I actually taped my 5th graders curriculum because I had intended on taping one for my 3rd grader, but I'll basically be making the same video twice. They are doing more or less they're using more or less the same books, just within a few subjects the grade level might be different. So what I'll do is insert B-roll to show where those books might differ. Now, for my 5th grader, especially when it comes to the language arts, I do need to move just a little bit slower for her benefit. Whereas with my 3rd grader, within the language arts, she is able to work at a few grades higher than her actual grade level. So that works out really well for me and for them because they're able to work together, and it just works out really, really well. I may have a few expectations that may differ between the both of them. Like for my 5th grader, when it comes to like writing, recently I started having her write some of her dictation exercises in cursive. Not all of them, just a few. One, because she's almost finished with her cursive and I need to get another one, but also just to give her that extra practice. And based on certain things with her, cursive and research, cursive seemed to be something based on research that might benefit her. So anyway, so that's that. And then with my 3rd grader for math, she needs to move a whole lot. So if she's having a really stressful day, then I may not expect her to complete everything for that was expected to be done that day, and just pick it up on another day. But that has not kept her back in any way. She's moving along quite fine. But I do make that adjustment when necessary for her. Another thing is that for my 5th grader, when we are doing like spelling tests, I would even though I'm giving them the tests at the same time, I will be basically giving them some words that are different for them to spell. Same thing with vocabulary, because their vocabulary text is at a different grade level. So, but other than that, they're basically doing a lot of things that's the same. But anyway, I'll get into the video now, and if it is you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. All right, so this year I got them all personal calendars, and to the front I have listed all of the subjects that she does, the days that those subjects are scheduled to be done, and then at the bottom an estimate amount of time that her regular subjects are going to take her each day. And between Monday and Thursday is estimated to take about 4 hours. Of course, life can happen, but just we do have it scheduled out, and then on a Friday it is scheduled to take anywhere between 2 hours and 15 to 30 minutes, depending on if it is she has just a vocabulary or a vocabulary and spelling test. Just a really simple test, right? So that is to the top, and then to the bottom I have a list of all of her extracurricular activities that she does, some of them being like typing, drawing, sewing. And what they do is, unless her dad and I have something scheduled for them after the school day, they get to go in to the rest of their calendar and, kind of schedule out different things that they would like to do with their time. I sat down with her and my 3rd grader and, showed them how to use it. And they've actually been enjoying using their calendar. So I think that is really, really nice little skill for them to gain. I kind of wish that I had started that, probably before. But anyway. And this children's Bible, I really like this Bible. I probably like it second to this. And this is just the ones that I've used. Second to this Jesus Children's Storybook. I've used this with all of my kids. My eldest read it. Then my 5th grader, she read it for about 2 years as a personal Bible. And this year, my 3rd grader is going to be using it. This I would be using as a read aloud sometimes. I really like that after each story, it has a nice little reflection section with some questions that really brings up some interesting questions and conversations, I should say, not question, but conversations with the kids. And then there's a short prayer that you can just, read aloud after. And I added a personal Bible for her. This is an NIV version. So that is her Bible and calendar setup for this school year. All right, so for math, we are continuing with Matthew C. Last year she did Gamma. This year she's moving on to Delta. Now this curriculum is one that I have been able to make at some rate work for all of my kids. I did have to slow down when we were doing beta a bit for her, but now she's doing really well. So we're moving on to Delta, right? The instruction manual I use mainly for correction. I do try as much as possible to correct some or most of their math. So that's what I use this for. The test book at the end of, well, not the end, sometime during the second semester, once they are finished with the main student workbook, I'm going to use the test book for her and my third grader as a form of review. And same thing, I will try to correct as much as possible some of the test pages in here using the manual. For the student workbook, the DVD to accompany this, I have them watch it on a Sunday. And most times that works out for us. Now, if it is for some reason they either finish early or they finish late and run into another week, depending on when it falls, we may go ahead and watch another video, but most times watching it on a Sunday works well. So that is what we are going to follow. So this curriculum works well for all of them, and I'm really happy about that. So we are continuing with Matthew C. All right, so for language arts, first we have all about reading and all about spelling, level 3. And I will be using this with both my 5th grader and my 3rd grader. They'll be doing it together. In my last update video, I shared that I was running into some setbacks in trying to use both of these curriculums. And that is because I was attempting to use it like how I was able to do more so the levels 1 and 2 with my first daughter. And since then, I have adjusted how I am using it, and that system is working a lot better. Now I have to, divide my time with 3 of them being in higher grade levels. So it's just not feasible to do it exactly the same way that I was able to do it earlier on in my first daughter's homeschool journey. Anyway, so my goal is first, if there is a review lesson that goes over a lesson that they were having problems before, I will go through the review lesson. Then I would move on to teaching the new concept, and they do use the tiles on the board because both of them, especially, they really do enjoy like tagging the words based on the new concept that they're learning, and that helps them to understand it a little bit better. Plus, that tactile work using their hands, that works out really well for both of them. One of them needs to keep busy and the other one really needs to work, a lot with her hands. So that works well. So we do that. And if there is a dictation exercise, not in this one, but if there is a dictation exercise like it has in this lesson, depending on the sentences, I will choose to go through the dictation exercise as well, more so to, for continuous practice with pronouncing their words. And that's looking at the all about spelling. When it comes to the spelling words, I am not using the spelling words that's within the all about spelling. That's because I do have to move a little bit slower, when it comes to teaching reading and spelling concepts with my 5th grader. However, when it comes to actual spelling of words and actual reading, chapter book reading, she is more so on grade level. So I found that because we were moving slower, going through using the spelling words from here was just really not adding any value. So now for spelling, I have a binder that I've had since probably the beginning of my homeschool journey that I've put together with, and added probably a few things here and there over the years. I use spelling words from there for right now. And now that they have a vocabulary curriculum that I'm using with them, I'll also pick and choose words from there that I think would be worth, their spelling. So that's how I go about picking spelling words. When it comes to, really trying to and I'll use this term over drill the concept, I think my mindset now is that once they learn the concept, if it is they are reading enough, which is something that they are doing, then they will get the opportunity to, meet some of those concepts, probably not all, during their actual reading, and hopefully they will remember some of it that way. Because honestly, even my eldest who did this, and she is really, language arts, all of the language arts elements is a strong suit of hers, and she doesn't remember all of the concepts. So now, knowing that, I am just going to flow through the curriculum, use it as best as possible, and not do what I was doing, which is allow myself to get stumped trying to follow it to a T. So hopefully that helps. And it's more or less the same thing for All About Reading. Now, for All About Reading, even with my eldest, we use the level 1 and 2, the teacher's manual, and a lot of the activity book. By the time we got to level 3 and 4, because then I had I can't remember the grades, my now third and fifth graders were in, but they were older and I had to start paying a lot more attention to them when it comes to like starting to get them learning their basics. We weren't able to use that much with the activity book even for her. So I think, but at least for me, as I have 3 kids, so depending on your situation, you will have to assess. It's just not feasible for me to use the curriculum all the way through using every element of it as it's laid out here. All right, so for All About Reading, similar approach. I'm going to do whatever review that it has, teach the new concept using the tiles. Sorry about all of that turning. Use the tile board and teach the new concept by like labeling the words with these specific labels, whether they are learning about controlling R or the different functions of silent E, whatever it is. They would practice, further practice that new teaching by labeling it on the tile board. And similar, if there are words in here. Now this sometimes does have a few words that might be worth taking and using for spelling, and once in a while, like if I see a word that I know they may struggle with, I will take a word from there and add to their spelling list for the week. But same thing, we will just say the practice words orally, right? And with the activity book, the only thing that I will have them do in here is go through the new words and say it to me verbally. And also the same thing with the phrases, but the actual activities themselves, we are not going to be using those. So that is that. When it comes to the spelling, cards, I've always liked, and I still like, the review cards for All About Spelling, and that gets the most use when it comes to the All About Spelling cards. And the All About Reading, I don't really use the word cards that much, but I do go through the phonogram cards ever so often, right? And we do use the readers as well for All About Reading, right? So that kind of goes through how it is I use the All About Reading and All About Spelling now. So it works for us. I just don't go through the curriculum, as thoroughly now that I have more kids to try to teach. Maybe you might be able to do better than I can, but that's how I use it for right now. For writing, we are going to continue with Writing with Ease level 3. So we are a little bit behind when it comes to writing as well. Now for level 3, instead of working our way all the way through from the beginning of the book to the end of the book like we did with levels 1 and 2, my intention is to go through the different exercises, and if it's a concept that they understand, even though at level 3 it is going to be a little bit more advanced than what it did in level 1 and 2, once I realize that they understand identifying the central details or the narrative thread, we are going to skip some of those exercises moving forward, because I do have something else planned for them if it is we can get through this at a decent pace. If it is I need to do it all the way through, that's what I'm going to do at least at this stage. All right, now this book, it does introduce a little bit of poetry as well, so they go through some of the patterns when it comes to poetry. Not sure how much of it they are going to retain, but it does introduce a little bit of poetry in this level 3. I had to add, well, my eldest wanted to do a little bit of poetry, so I got some poetry items for her, and some of it is at a lower grade level, so they will actually be able to read some of those poems, and we'll see if that is going to be beneficial to them. All right, so that's what we are doing for writing, our main writing spine, and this is going to be Monday through Thursday unless, God spare. On a Friday, my intention is to try this. We've done it twice in the 4 weeks that we have been doing school so far. I had this on my shelf because I bought it about 2 years ago and I actually did not use it very much at all. I started it and just did not continue. So when I give my first homeschool update, I will, come back and mention if it added any value or not. But we're just going to give it a try and see if it can help them with forming, better paragraphs. We'll see. But I had it there already, so why not? Vocabulary, I wanted to add a formal vocabulary curriculum this year for both of them. And I also had this on my shelf. I purchased this, influenced by YouTube. I purchased this quite a few years ago and never used it. And instead of starting with something like Wordly Wise or Word Roots, because I was looking at both of those, I figured that starting with something, a little bit gentler would be a good idea. And I had this already. And this is actually working really well. I think they're on lesson 4. So it has 3 lessons per week. So they do the 3 lessons where they started working through synonyms and antonyms, and they will be using the same words like over, and in all 3 lessons for that week, they'll be using the same words. So it's not difficult. This is for 5th grade. So it depends on the child that you're using it with. They're going to be using the same words throughout 3 lessons. And then on a Thursday, I have them review all of the words that they learned that week. And on that Friday, they have a spelling. Every Friday, they have a very simple spelling test. And every other Friday, a vocabulary test, right? And for that vocabulary test, what I do is I will just ask them what the meaning of that particular word is. So how it's working out is that they would be like kind of staggered. So they are on they just finished lesson 4, but we have lesson 2 for a test this week. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. So that's what we are doing for vocabulary. For cursive, she's just continuing with this cursive book, and she's actually almost finished. She started this, I believe, in, I want to say 22, late 22. Yeah. Right. So we've been using this really slowly. That's why it says 4th grade, because she just continued with this, right? And we most likely are going to get another one and just pick up with cursive. I used to have them start, my 2 younger ones, I used to have them start with math when they were starting their homeschool days, but now they start with cursive just to kind of start day gently. So we are going to continue with this handwriting with tears. For reading comprehension, she is using this Reading Detective by the Critical Thinking Company, and I do like this for her. When we first started this, what I did was I actually went through even the teacher notes. I sat down with her and we read through the teacher overview, what is expected of her, the flow of the book, and then the first few lessons, even the pre-test, we did all of that together. And then the first few lessons, I did them with her. Once she got a hang of it, then she was able to continue from there. And since then, this has been working really nicely for her. So she is going to continue with this. And then for grammar, we are using Fix It Grammar Level 2. They did Fix It Grammar Level 1. I really do like the Fix It Grammar series. I started this last year with them. And yes, last year, and I really do like this this Fix It Grammar curriculum. It's doing what it is I wanted it to do, and I really do like this Fix It Grammar curriculum. Now, this the Giver instructional guide, my intention is that during the 2nd semester, we are expected to be well finished with our vocabulary, and instead of adding another vocabulary or anything for vocabulary, I will be doing the Giver with my 8th grader. So I would have already listened to the book on Audible. So I want to gently start this instructional guide with both her and my 3rd grader, not with the intention of trying to finish it, but just to give it a try and see how this works for them. Now, this is recommended for grades 4 to 8, but my third grader is able to work at a few grade levels above her grade. So I think that this should work out fine, so we'll give it a try. All right, so for extra reading this season, we live pretty close to our local library, so it's not going to be too stressful scheduling once a month, maybe twice, to go and get some chapter books. It's a lot. Our library allows for 2 weeks, but most times I extend it just so that they have more time with the books, unless someone has the book on hold, and then of course I have to go back within the 2-week period. So that's what they're going to be doing for chapter books. That works out much better for me now, as opposed to just buying a whole lot of chapter books and having a lot of hits and misses. But I will talk more about that in another video. Also, my 3rd and my 5th graders, they will also be reading a lot of the Who Was or What Was books. We own quite a few of those. So last year I read some of them to them as read alouds. This year they're also going to be reading from those as chapter books. So that's what they're going to be doing for a lot of like individual reading this year. All right, so for social studies, our main spine is this 180 days of social studies and 180 days of geography. Now, this I have allotted to take an hour per day between Monday and Thursday. And the reason is, even though this is not going to take us an hour, I have enough time in there so that if we wanted to add an extra, like a YouTube video to help us with a lesson, like last week, my youngest was doing an activity about the Pony Express. So we chose to sit down and watch a YouTube video before actually doing the exercise in here. Now, it is possible most times for them to just read the activity or the lesson, sorry, and do it. But I find them to get a little bit more if it is we, like watched a YouTube video, or sometimes even print out an activity to go along with it, just so that we can go a little bit deeper into social studies this year, which is something that I really wanted to do with them. Now, with this book, I am only using the history and geography pages this year. So yes, we are kind of doubling up on geography in a bit, but it's not that many pages. And same thing, they do 2 pages from here. If it is we needed to watch a YouTube video or do some extra reading, we have time set aside for that. Civics and economics, whenever they get to those pages, we are skipping those and just working through the history and geography. And that is because my intention is that after the first semester is finished, we are going to switch over to civics and economics in this book. All right, so this is how we're using the main spine, and then I have some supplements here that's going to go along with these 2 books. All right, so during the first semester, we'll be using the stack here, and we would not be reading through all of these books cover to cover. We will just be using to refer to specific topics that we want to dive a little bit deeper than the information that's already provided in here. And if I didn't want to, choose to watch like a YouTube video or something else, we are going to refer to this. Now, in my last update video, I had shared that I was going to look for something else as a history reference for my younger 2 daughters. However, after looking around and deciding that either I didn't find anything that was general enough, that touched on enough topics, or for the cost for something that was just going to be a supplement, I just wanted a new curriculum because I've been using this one for so long. So that wasn't a justifiable enough reason. So I am going to continue with what your kid needs to know, because this does work. I've just been using it for, a long time. I do own the series, but I just pulled out the 3rd and 5th grade levels since I'll probably be using those most. All right, so what your kid needs to know, and we will just look at specific topics based on the exercises that they are doing in here. What your 5th grader needs to know. Now, I do own the other 2 books from this series, but this is the one that I will be referring to. Actually, I did refer to it once already for the school term. I just want them to read up a little bit more outside of what is in these 180 days books. Not sure about if you're going to try any of the activities, but definitely going to be reading just a bit from this a kid's guide to Native American history. This is another book I've owned for quite some time, so sometimes we will refer to this, A Child's Introduction to African American History, just for reference. And then for geography, I just updated their atlas because the ones that we have, the book ones, they're pretty old. So I just got some updated ones. National Geographic Kids version. There's a student version for the higher grades. And then United States Atlas Kids. All right, so that's for the first semester. And then in the second semester, I'm going to add in these when we switch out history and geography for civics and economics. And again, these are books that I've owned, so I'm just pulling it in as reference when we get to that point. So Usborne Money for Beginners. These books are really simple for them to read through. So we're going to be going through these and discussing because it's going to be really simple for us to actually read through these. All right, the Usborne Business for Beginners. Economics for Beginners. And then Politics for Beginners. All right, now this financial literacy book, the economics pages in here, because we are going to be doing same thing, 2 pages a day, they are going to actually be finished with those pretty quickly because there's not a lot of economics pages. Once we are finished with those, then we are going to start this financial literacy. So we are not going to finish this school term. I'm just going to get them started on the topic of financial literacy, early. And we are going to take our time with this. With this topic, I'm not really concerned about the grade level. It's just for us to start having discussions on that topic. And I have said this so many times, when it comes to Evermore, I really do enjoy using a lot of their books. And the way how I use it most times is I just choose the pages that I, would like to do and skip the ones that I don't want to. But I really like a lot of Evermore books. All right, so that is going to be our geography for this school year. Some of it this semester, and then the rest we're going to pull in the second semester. All right, and for science, we are using this Heaven and Earth set from this In God's Design science series. And I chose to do earth science with them since my eldest is also doing earth science. I want, one, that they still have an opportunity to, kind of all work together in some form as, just before my eldest moves on into high school. But also, just in case there's anything that she's doing, even though, of course, it's going to be at a higher level, maybe it will provide the opportunity where if they cover that same topic in this series, that little light bulb moment can happen for them, right? So that's why I chose to do earth science as opposed to, I still have the physical world and the orange set as well in this series. All right, so right now we are actually working through planet Earth. And I have the printouts here. But I have the same thing for my younger one. When you buy it, you get like these quizzes and worksheets. It's really, really thin, right? So I have those here. And they just did one activity in this so far. There is not a worksheet for every single lesson in here, all right? So anyway, so that's what we are doing for science. And for reference, I just have these 2 books pulled out so that if a topic that we are looking at in here exists within this illustrated elementary science, which I owned for quite some time, and also this How to Be Good at Science book, they can read through it here where it's explained in probably a simpler manner and in a manner where they can read through it on their own, right? And since both of them are going to be using it, I'm just going to use colored post-its so that if I have something that I want any one of them to read, they can just refer to where I placed the post-its. So it's a glance in here. I've owned these for quite some time, so I didn't have to repurchase them. And these are just going to be used as reference as we are going through the earth science. All right, so that's our science curriculum. All right, so that is my 5th graders curriculum. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching the video, and I will talk to you in another one. Bye.